This is Niels, and he's back for another discussion. So, can I ask you, Niels, what are your thoughts on the whole um, debacle with Fox News and Tucker Carlson?
Oh, right. Wow. Yeah. So, it seems that regardless of how profitable speech can be, if it goes against the predetermined establishment narrative, which is a global narrative at this point, it'll still get quashed. And I mean, Tucker was their biggest moneymaker. I mean, we all saw the market dip when they removed them. So there should be no illusions now that you can make enough money off telling the truth that they'll allow it. Now that that dichotomy has been quashed, and we all see plain that even the fatted calf will be sacrificed in the name of the establishment narrative. So I don't know. I mean, 10 years ago I considered Tucker an enemy, but now, even though we disagree on a lot of things, his anti-establishment perspective and mine are beginning to overlap quite a bit. I think there's a lot of area globally on a populist front, and I think Tucker recognizes that, and I think he was walking a line for a long time between, how far can it go, and eventually they just had to cut that balloon loose and let it fly all the way to Twitter, I guess. You know, what do you think about it?
I'm not sure um, who actually fired him and what he was. Well, I say fired. He hasn't been released from his contract, but his show's been
Right,
cancelled. But
right,
I don't know who did it or why. And people suspect that Rupert Murdoch made Lachlan Murdoch do it. There's rumours that it was Irina Bacante or Susan Scott. We haven't
right,
actually had confirmation of
right,
who made the call, and
right,
nor do they know who the people who are leaking the information, the Mediaite and Media Matters on Tucker. And again, the reason is still unknown. Some suspect that it was because he said that's not how white men fight. Um, in a
right.
text on a January the 6th video, there's um, a rumor that after Rupert Murdoch's breakup, um, he was creeped out by the talk of God and Christianity in Tucker's heritage speech.
Mm.
And there there are other reasons to the Dominion lawsuit, but um,
Right,
basically Tucker is the least culpable at Fox News. Like,
right, right. His
and
liability
thus,
was very light. Mm.
and the Murdochs met Zelensky before it happened.
Right.
That cannot be
A
coincidental.
coincidence? Yeah, no, I don't think so. No, you're right. Well, I mean, whatever the straw was that broke the proverbial camel's back, that camel's back was being strained for a while because, hand in hand with Tucker's popularity was his ability to narrate what a lot of people in America, but around the world, are thinking. I mean, um, I don't think there's been conditions for a populist global uprising of this magnitude since probably World War II. I mean, people are pretty fed up. The Five Eyes, which for our viewers, the Five Eyes are like Great Britain, United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, right? You know, um, we all tend to blame each other, and of course, America gets a lot of the blame. But if you look at how American people live, we get the least out of it. We don't even have national health care or anything. Um, and I've got a son that's draft age, so it's not all fun and games here. Um,
That's something
so
I don't get. Um, what's it, 33 trillion now, the national debt?
I think so.
And
I think so.
Medicare for all would reduce costs by 5.1 trillion over
Yeah,
a decade.
right.
Couldn't that be reallocated to paying down the debt if you just give your people healthcare and take
Oh,
out the middleman?
oh, sure. Oh, I mean, like, and I don't think we should do a Medicare for all. I think we should do like a national, like an NHS, like you guys have, um, and socialize the entire, the doctors as well.
And
But
it's the it's the cheapest um,
of
currency
course,
unit by currency unit of tax payments. It is the cheapest system, and you get better outcomes, more
yeah,
longevity.
right. But see, the American, what's up? It's hard to get most people to understand. In America, our bosses are not incentivized to help the people. See, a very healthy, well adjusted, educated American people would be able to get rid of this crooked government and free the world from our tyranny. Okay. So, whatever is a rational reason for a first world country to help its people in most other regards, I think if a Marxist is being honest about what he sees, you really can't apply that logic to our leaders. Our leaders are not making the cause for or against Medicare for all on its merits. They say they want it, and we're not allowed.
On their donations.
Right? Yeah, they say they want it when it's donation time, but there is no political will on the federal level to do anything like it. California's had a Democratic supermajority for like 10 or
Yeah,
12 years, and they can't
yeah.
even do a
Newsom
statewide.
said before he began governing that
Mhm.
he, he would make sure he'd sign it in.
Yep,
And
exactly.
it's not like people in California need healthcare.
Right. Well, yeah.
Like that state has went downhill.
Oh, yes. Well,
Like,
because liberalism has run away with itself there.
but so it's fine to have bodies under every underpass.
Hmm.
How's that going to be conducive to the business community and a strong local economy? And that's another thing on Medicare for all. Trump wrote in this book that it would save businesses from a lot of health costs if
Hmm.
Medicare for all was done, and he argued that the funds saved could be reinvested.
Of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Did you
So
see the Did you see the Trump town hall?
yes, and I thought it was hilarious.
It was hilarious, actually. I
Like
mean,
Caitlin
he's
Collins walks straight into his answers every time.
yes, yes, he's a different. He can't be controlled like other politicians or
And the
whatever.
crowd in New Hampshire seemed largely approving of him. So that's good news for him in the primary, surely.
Hmm.
But CNN want their ratings back. That's
Exactly.
what I thought it was about. And they beat
Yes.
Fox News and MSNBC.
Right. It was
So,
a scoop. Yeah, they scooped it. Yeah. Yeah, because I watched zero CNN, but I watched that. You know what I mean?
and I think Fox News has made the same mistake as Anheuser-Busch. Like, they
How's that?
alienated their core audience,
Right. Right.
and they've just continued to fund them in the eye since. And none of the leaks are making Tucker look bad. They're
Right.
making Fox News look worse.
Right. Right. Yeah. Tucker's now going to work, of course, through Twitter. They're saying, which I personally like that alignment. I'm no fan of Elon Musk, like one of those, fanboys that love everything he does and think he's some super genius. But I feel like the establishment side of the bourgeoisie hates him, and I think they hate Tucker now, and so I'm seeing what I believe to be kind of a secret war already beginning in the bourgeoisie, where they're different people. Some of them want to make a woke imperialism. Some want to do it more of a traditional imperialism. but them being upset at each other can only benefit us in the long run. And if Elon Musk wants to be a free speech absolutist, he's going to get the attention of comrades like us who want to actually hear someone say something true. And that's a huge market. It's a smart move for Elon to reach out, and they're trying to make alliances with Tucker right now because he's at the peak of his popularity. Um, he's more astute than ever. I mean, like I said, 10 years ago, there was almost nothing worth listening to. Now, he's pretty much describing what me and my family are going to. So a lot of these people who are programmed to hate truckers, they've been programmed to do that through the liberal orthodoxy that I struggle against. Like, I, I definitely have some progressive views, but I am not a liberal. Okay, so hating Tucker is a liberal thing to do. Like, Tucker is a populist right now. Like, what he's basically talking about is about strengthening the United States of America, and international comrades like if America starts taking care of its own business, maybe we wouldn't be messing up things around the world for other people. Like, that's what I want is us to focus on ourselves. And essentially, that's a traditionally in America, that isolationist view is a libertarian perspective. Now, while I do not agree with libertarian economics, an isolationist view right now in America would be good for the world. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think maybe we ought to stick
I,
to our own business?
I, I definitely agree with that. But on the libertarian, did you see the discussion I did with Tony Mullen?
No.
He's a council candidate in Colin up the road there,
Okay.
and he's a libertarian. If you go and listen to that discussion, a lot of his economic ideas are further to the left than the modern Democratic Party,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
also on empire expanding markets by military brute force. Uh, I don't see how America illegally using Shannon uh, as a military base. Um, it's illegal under free state law and
Right.
it's unconstitutional, but the free state government ingratiate themselves to the American empire. I
Right.
don't see how that benefits the American people.
Right.
And also, on Elon being a free speech absolutist, he
Yes.
has improved some things on Twitter, like getting rid of, well, let's just call it obscene and illegal content. I
Right.
don't want to attract any more attention to that.
Right.
That was a plus, but there's this censorious authoritarianism still there, as Michael Knowles, a conservative Catholic who's a commentator at the Daily Wire,
Mm.
had tweets censored for quoting the Bible. Now,
Oh, really?
if Elon is
Interesting.
the free speech absolutist that he professes to be, quoting the
Hmm.
Bible should
Right. Right.
not be a controversial. This is why I prefer Truth Social,
Right.
because
Right.
even at his most authoritarian, I can't see Trump taking down a truth with a Bible verse in it.
Right.
In
Right.
fact,
Right. No,
I've
I agree.
I've truthed many Bible verses out on Truth Social, not one removed or even censored.
Right. Yeah, I have a profile there, and I've talked to some people, but it's I've had a difficult time. We'll say that. I like libertarians. I can get along with them pretty easily. I was raised. My family's technically Republican, but I'm old. Back in the day, in the 70s and 80s and stuff, Libertarian Party was just beginning here. So I think it was started in 1980. So it was
I
just a
think
very
the Cokes were involved in that.
yeah, yeah, yes, they were. But before that, my grandfather was considered was like a Goldwater Republican, which was small government, low taxes, the trains run on time, and a lot of people talk about it being, you know, I mean, by my standards, Goldwater was a racist, but for the time, for the 1960s, And for him being a 6-year-old man, I just think that um, uh, for the time, I think Goldwater was socially conservative, but I think he was um, economically basically beyond conservatism. The thing about the Democrats and Republicans and them controlling basically all the power in the country is they have a very, very protectionist, narrow economic view. So they range pretty widely on social issues, as we both know. But like you said, libertarians have views to the left of Democrats because Democrats are, you know, they'd rather work for Starbucks than for a mom and pop store or a farm. You know, some
It
people still own a few
seem
things.
elitist.
Yeah, exactly. Elitist, exactly.
Like
You know,
a
um,
top-heavy economy, the boom can't go on forever. It's going to bust,
right,
and it's going to collapse on top of those who are at the bottom. Like
right,
think of it like a pyramid. It should be wider at the bottom and thinner at the top, not thinner at the bottom and then wider at the top.
right. Not structurally sound. Yeah,
It's and that's why the liberal elites get so freaked out about January 6th. They think
right.
that is a sign of things to come, and quite frankly, if they're not careful, it is, and
It,
it will be a lot worse and
oh my God.
a lot better organized.
You're right. Yeah,
Why do
you're
you
right.
think they'll want to grab the guns? They
They
don't
want
want
to take the guns so
they
bad.
they don't want people to be able to protect themselves.
No.
And this is the thing. Um, shall not be infringed, and under no pretext. You can't declare,
Yeah,
but
incontrovertible.
but it's the empire wanting to control literally everything and every aspect of people's lives, and
Yes.
they just expect people to take it lying down.
Right. Of course. Of course. Yeah, that's one reason why lately I'm focusing on something that I call family style communism. Like when Marx, during his time, 1850s, 60s, 70s, whatever, um, when you're an intellectual, which of course Marx and Engels and those Frankfurt School guys were, it was sort of brave. I'm not saying it was correct. Okay, I'm not attaching my personal feelings in this. I'm just talking about it in a general way. It was kind of a brave thing 150, 200 years ago to be an atheist. There was no secular states. Okay, religion controlled every aspect. Now, someone could prefer that, or someone could prefer things secularly, but it's just a fact. That's the way things were, right? And Marx, of course, lived and wrote most of his life in England, and so he knew about the tax that everyone paid to the Church of England, whether you, especially in Ireland, so you know about this. Everyone had to pay a tax to the Church of England, right? You couldn't hold lots of positions unless in society unless you were a member of the Church of England. So I think it was pretty brave for him or Engels or someone to be secular or agnostic or atheistic because society needed, I thought at that time, I agree. I think society then needed to secularize. And these old positions in family and all these traditions that spill out from the Dark Ages into the Renaissance, into the Age of Enlightenment, into the Industrial Age, we needed to question them and look at them and consider them and contemplate them. That needed to happen. But I don't think Marx would be an atheist or an agnostic now. I don't think he would be. I think if he lived now with his type of mind, his type of genius, I think he would see the withering away of familial and community relationships. I think he would see where something at least like the church would be necessary, that reason alone, as Hume would say, I'm a big fan of David Hume, the Scottish philosopher. I mean, we're not pure reason. Like people try to pretend like everything can be reasoned out in logic. And I love reason. I'm a very reasonable man. But I have no illusions about everything coming to a reasonable conclusion, especially one that people can agree on. Like, so, you know, what I believe is, you know, the dissolution of family ties that Marx and Engels write about and discuss under socialism leading to the abundance of communism, I believe that probably would happen to some degree because the hierarchy of needs would start being eroded, and we wouldn't need family the way we have in the past and the way we still do now. But, you know, there's that question from Rosa Luxemburg, socialism or barbarism. And what I see is society right now considering socialism, but still moving towards barbarism. So if that is the case, I'm not saying it is, I'm saying this is my premise. So if the world is moving towards barbarism, then the dissolution of family ties under this sort of capitalistic imperialism with monopolies and with globalist agendas and media around the world, like during that, dissolving family ties is the actual recipe for global slavery. I mean, that's what it is. What keeps people here in the core free is we're a fighting people, all races, all people. Americans like to fight. There's too many guns here for them to come get the guns. They can't do it. There's too many guns in America. If they knew where all the guns were, they'd be trying to take them. They don't know where they are. There's no way to go through the neighborhoods and get all the guns. And the government knows that. And so they leave everyone alone. And we're not rushing to overthrow them because our government's the most powerful in history. This is undoubtedly going to be put in some file because we've used a lot of buzzwords and we've passed it through the internet. So at the end of the day, family is what's going to save us. Okay, family style communism is the economics of James Connolly, but you know, a modern idea now. You are religious, you're a Catholic, I'm a Christian. Okay, but not everyone has our views. So I personally prefer secular government so that everyone can have their own religion. That's what I prefer. But if someone wants to be an atheist or an agnostic, I think that's fine too. But I want people to refocus their energy and attention on the family. And I mean, if you don't have blood relatives, make a family. Find some friends. Be worthy. Keep your word to one another. Try to encourage each other to be successful, right? I mean, this is a society that's dog eat dog. No one is really standing together and standing up against the bastards. They're commodifying everything: relationships, sex, magic, romance, arts. We got AIs now. We got robotics now, right? We're not even reproducing at replacement rates, right? Um,
Um, kind of that brings me on to what I wanted to say. I
yeah,
can't ever see a successful society without families. Families are the building blocks of civilization. Also, if you can't keep families together, how are you going to keep a community and massive
exactly.
population together? And on barbarism or socialism, the world is heading towards barbarism. We ought to be clear about that. Also, Marx was a Lutheran and Engels was a Calvinist.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I
Probably.
think the opium of the people quote has been taken out of
It has.
context so many
Right.
times. Like
Yes.
the sigh of the oppressed, the heart in a heartless world.
Right.
But I think without families and communities standing together,
I agree.
as you said, the the basically the corporate fascist government and state is too large and too powerful to basically um, have disparate peoples up against it,
Mm.
unless it's one mass against them. They're not going to win. Like the
Right.
people aren't going to win unless it's
Right.
everyone against them.
Yeah. Popular Front.
basically it everyone against the elite,
Yeah.
and I, I can't see it happening at any time soon, as there are too many divisions, and the the elite are very good at pushing their agenda. Very, very good.
Yes.
It's frustrating and it's annoying.
Think tanks.
And
Think tanks.
basically, I think we're heading towards the destruction of human society. Forget
Correct.
forget Ukraine, forget Taiwan. Even if they don't manage to balls that one up, and quite frankly, I don't have a lot of faith. Like, these crazy bastards think they're going to beat Russia and Ukraine, march on into Russia, balkanize it, and they think they're going to do that, even if they somehow um, pull that one off. The PLA is not just going to look above the Great Wall and say, "Oh, hiya, Yankee Doodle." No, there's going to be
Right.
repercussions, and especially with Taiwan, and America doesn't have the resources and the personnel to pull that off, to fight a northern front and and yeah, an eastern
Right.
front. Like, and the PLA is bigger than the United
Oh yes.
States armed forces, as bloated as the latter is.
Right.
It's it's not feasible. But even all that aside, yeah, I can't see humanity lasting another couple of centuries. I really can't. And I just say afforestation and the energy infrastructure's updated and everything. Even if Kiribati doesn't sink into the Pacific, say all that happens, I still don't see humanity surviving. Like, this, this cannot continue indefinitely.
Oh well, the pendulum swings, right? I mean, it
Well,
won't continue on like this, but I have a feeling humanity is going to be around a long time. I have a feeling humanity is going to be around so long it won't even be humanity in another couple thousand years.
that is very optimistic.
Yes, God is great. I mean, life is beautiful and important, and it does what it does.
A lot of the modern world and how it functions seems to be the work of the devil, not God.
Well, it probably is, but God created the devil too. So the devil's on the payroll. I mean, God God is the devil's just the Green Knight, but he's like a little horned guy, right? The devil's on the payroll. The devil's doing his job too, to tempt us, to test us. Like the Green Knight comes and lets them whack off his head and says, "I'll be back to whack yours off
Yet
to see if
so
the
many
knight."
people still choose evil and don't resist the temptation.
Right, but we have to, and we have to believe that people can. See, people are still good. They have been captured by think tanks and the elites that wield them, and they have been, programmed like any living creature can. Pavlov and his dog. I mean, it's all attribution bias, and it's all mischaracterizations and lies by omission. And then you have a populace that has really strong opinions about things they don't even understand, and that's the American reality right now. And I think to a significant degree, if not the same, it's the Western reality right now, the NATO West, the Five Eyes, the Anglophone reality. I think, of course, people like us who take all this very seriously, I think we're a very large minority. But I also believe hunger, things could change quickly. It could be tragic, but they could be very good in the long run. Okay, people's seriousness in these matters is directly proportional to their life experience.
I think
Like
it's
you and
going
I,
to. I think it's going to take bodies starving in the street, as if it's not happening on scale yet, but it is happening. And what's it, $7,400 at least worse off under Biden. That is evil.
Yeah.
People were struggling
Uh,
after
yeah.
the CARES Act, like,
Yeah.
and the CARES Act, $10 trillion in corporate welfare. That is eye watering, and
Yeah.
they can do it for that, but they can't do it to pay down the 33 trillion debt. And another thing, the Wall Street crash. What was it, 2008?
Mm-hmm.
That ended the bailout resulting from that cost 29 trillion.
Yep.
That could have zeroed out the debt. That could have had a surplus. Like,
Right.
the it's brazen robbery. It's
Yes.
like the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yes.
They
Yes.
they have a shitload of rubber,
Yeah.
uranium, cobalt. 80% of the world's cobalt and coltan, which is needed for computers, phones, and televisions.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see 80% of the benefit. Like, the people still live in poverty,
Right.
despite living beside the mines, which are very profitable. Like, it's just daylight robbery. Like,
Yep.
how people don't see it, and it annoys me when liberals still boast about Biden's accomplishments,
Yeah.
like
Oh, geez.
the
Yeah.
Inflation Reduction Act. That that's keeping inflation going till next year.
Yeah. It was
It
not.
it's increasing it.
Yes. Exactly. And I think it was intended to. I mean, please understand that they look okay. Not all the time. They definitely are incompetent some of the time. But about half the time that the federal government in the United
It's
States
just being
looks,
malevolent for
it's
their
just being malevolent and using
corporate
incompetence.
donors.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
this this Green Deal package will benefit these corporations who just
Hmm.
happen to donate to my campaign, but it's not a conflict of interest. We really
Right.
do want to reduce inflation by
Oh,
creating more
sure.
energy sources. Like,
Yeah. No.
that is malevolent. That
Yes.
is that is absolutely malicious to
Yeah.
say to your constituents, "I was doing it for you and not my corporate donors. We
Yes.
just want to bring energy costs down." And
Right.
you're like, so why aren't you increasing the amount of energy? Um, why aren't you talking to the BRICS countries? They've got energy producers. In fact, during that whole Donbass war, like, both Ukraine and Russia produce energy.
Hmm.
You might, and also that limits the supply if Russia and Ukraine are using all that gas to keep the tanks going. And also on environmental friendliness. Yeah, the biggest emission in history.
Yeah. Was
The,
the pipeline
and then
Nord
the,
Stream?
and then there was East Palestine, the American Chernobyl.
Yep. Right.
I
Yeah.
Could you imagine if Trump had did half of this?
Oh yeah. No. Biden literally did all the things they
They said
scaremongered. Yeah.
Trump was going to do.
Exactly. And then
And
Biden turned around and did it.
what's with the humanitarian? You said your family's from Texas, didn't you?
Yes. Yes.
What on earth's going on down in places like Del Rio, like
Yeah. My family all.
gangs trafficking minors? That's a
Right.
humanitarian catastrophe, and Biden seems nonchalant. We might send the National Guard down there sometime. Don't worry
Right.
about it. My donor says it's not important. If you were the parents of the children, maybe you'd have a different opinion, Joe. But yeah,
Right.
what do you think?
You know, it's just the wages of neoliberalism We created those, probably the vast majority of those refugees or migrants, whatever you want to call them. And
Well, maybe stop sanctioning and doing coups in their country
right,
and
yeah,
creating wars on their borders. That might stem the flow, but Biden doesn't want to do that because it's good for his donors.
yeah,
He
exactly.
just wants to send Kamala down to give him a lecture about it after.
Well, I think they're putting up the wall. They're using all these displaced people to to make the wall happen, and they're making the wall as much to lock American citizens in as to keep Mexicans or Central Americans out. Um, because at the end of the day, they're going to want, the neoliberals and the commodifiers are going to want population control on either side. It's just making the wall is such a huge project. They can't do it all at once. It's too expensive. They can't sell it in one piece. Trump tried, and they couldn't sell it to the American people in one go as like a giant project. So they're just gonna let these displaced people threaten us at the border and use that as a type of like domestic saber rattling to keep interest, so they can continually build that border up to the border is built.
So
Um,
the humanitarian situation is a mere bargaining chip for them.
right, correct. Yeah, it's leverage.
And also,
Um,
even could with all the what's it, 7 or 8 trillion in expenditure per year, they couldn't do a jobs program for unemployed people in the southern states,
they
and
should.
and better still, um, if they want to keep Americans in, they should make their living conditions better. Like
Oh yes.
the living conditions in Gavin Newsom's California, and I'm not going to say Jerry Brown was any better,
Right.
but at least under Jerry Brown, there wasn't an exodus from California to Baja. Like
Right.
people are going, yeah, I know there's a war in that country, but things are becoming a living nightmare and hellscape in this country. So they're moving from California to Baja.
To
But
Baja.
but that is immoral to use children getting trafficked and tortured as a bargaining chip or a saber to rattle in domestic politics.
Yep.
And
It,
also on the Martha's Vineyard, they all supported sanctioning the Bolivarian Republic.
hmm
So to put after declaring themselves a sanctuary, they sent the Venezuelans
Yeah,
into
DeSantis sent all.
military detention. Oh, I'm talking about the Democrats in Martha's Vineyard. No, the
Uh,
snobs with Obama and all. And yeah, this I don't like DeSantis. I really don't. But he had every right because
yeah, it
him
was
and
funny.
Abbott were getting all the excrement.
Right.
Because why aren't you trying to help these people?
Right.
Okay, well we'll help these people. Can you get us a bus to A, B, or C? And
Right.
DeSantis and Abbott were like, yeah, we'll bring you to the bus station now. And like they can't sanction a country, declare themselves a sanctuary, and then when people come from the country they sanctioned, put them off in military detention. Like if people didn't see that the people of Martha's Vineyard, the rich snobs who live isolated from the rest of Massachusetts, if they didn't see them for the worst people in America and the racist hypocrites that they were, I
right.
don't know what to say.
Right.
Like for months and years, southern states and southern counties had to deal with more people on way bigger scale on their social services and their infrastructure.
Right.
Martha's Vineyard couldn't handle it for 2 days.
Right. Yeah. That was a genius bit of political theater, because it really did illustrate the vast hypocrisy of the liberals and the Democratic Party. And at the end of the day, they just want to play the good guys on TV They don't want to do anything for anybody. And I mean, I remember years ago when Trump was in power. AOC went down to the border and cried. Remember that? She went down and cried.
Yes.
Has she been back since Biden's been on there? She has. I don't think
It's
she
like
goes back to the border
it's like
anymore.
Trump said in the debate, "Who built the cages, Joe?"
Right. Yeah. Who
No,
built the cages?
but it's disgusting hypocrisy, and this is something I don't get. There's a diaspora of 30 million Irish people in America.
Right.
That is enough to swing an election.
Yeah. It really
Yet,
is.
yet nobody has ever forced the vote on Ireland. Like no one
Right.
says the Republican, Democrat, or third party candidate, well, if you get in, are you going to do anything about Ireland? Can you get rid of the Good Friday Agreement?
Right.
Our people are still living under colonial apartheid in 2023.
Yeah. It's
Like
crazy.
I don't think um, it has been tried, and I would love to see. Um, I'd love to see the Democrats or even the Republican establishment um, be forced to explain. Yeah, this is why I support the British military occupation of Ireland. I
Right.
I would love to see them explain their position, and
Right.
the official position of the U.S. government during the Troubles was they supported Britain because they didn't want another Cuba in the European Union's backyard.
Right.
Sorry, that's not DC's decision to make. It's
Yeah.
our country. That's our decision
Yes.
to make. It's it's
Yeah.
hubris.
Wow. Yeah. The 6 counties. So, like, when you guys vote for representation, does your representative go to London, like to the House of Commons, or do you have your
There's
own
there's
parliament?
Westminster elections and there's
Right.
Stormont elections. Stormont's like the local regional legislature. It's
In
over
Belfast.
there. It's over there in East Belt. I'm pointing like you can see. I there it is there. But yeah, it's
Right.
on the Upper Newton Arch Road.
Right.
I used to work on the Upper Newton Arch Road, but yeah, it's
Are your
like uh,
are the politics there in Northern Ireland? Is it still divided by religion, more or less?
yeah, it's designation unionist or nationalist,
Right.
which was basically institutionalizing apartheid and the Good Friday
Right.
Agreement. But
Right.
it yeah, basically um, there are areas with walls and gates, and it's an ethnic boundary,
Right.
peace lines, and interfaces. That is when one part of the community overlaps with the other, and there can be ethnic violence and tension there.
Right.
So it's not normal. It's never been normal, but Britain and the West pretends to the world that it is normal. And then when people
Right.
get here, they're like, what's this? Yeah, this
Right.
is the reality of living in an apartheid state. Like,
Right.
I remember when I lived on Ravenhill Road, I was speaking to a neighbour and I was explaining to her what apartheid in South Africa was. And she said to me, Eamon, do you mean like short strand and Clune Place? And I was like, that's exactly what it's like.
Right.
And Short Strand and Clune Place are just across the Albert Bridge Road from Ravenhill.
Hmm.
So it was, and basically, I I think Palestinians and others who live under apartheid regimes
Hmm.
can appreciate it, but saying it like I don't think America has apartheid. No, it
Yeah.
doesn't.
No. No.
Like I don't think it can be appreciated until people come here and see it, like
Yeah.
the big gates, and wondering if you can go down certain roads or certain streets at times because you're thinking, are the gates closed yet?
Right. Huh. Very interesting. Yeah, I don't know as much about this as I should. So like you would be considered an Irish nationalist?
Absolutely, yes.
Right. And you follow in the like Irish Republican communist tradition of like a James Connolly, for instance?
Yeah. Ab- Connolly's one of my heroes, and there's the James Connolly um, museum down the road there.
Hmm. Yeah, when I was first, because I spent many years as an anarchist, and when I first was coming and studying Marxist Leninism and starting to learn about it and the idea of like historical materialism stuff, he was one of the people that stood out to me very early on, and was very inspirational and helped me realize that Marxism applied is much better than just resisting power at every turn. Sometimes power is good. It depends on who's wielding it and what it's for. Um, uh, I have a question about Irish history, modern Irish history.
Yeah.
So when there was a split between the IRA and the provisional IRA, the IRA was supposed to be Marxist, where the provisional wasn't. Like
Um,
generally, that's what I've heard. Can you explain that a little bit?
Basically, both the officials and the professionals were socialist, and the officials, when they sold out, I think it may have been because they sold out the Westminster, the Stormont, the Leinster House,
Oh,
that
geez.
they were talking up a great game and putting on a heavy emphasis on Marx
Oh,
and Connolly. So,
right,
but basically, I think the Workers' Party has been found out over the years, not just by the ERBs, but by the official Republican movement, ORM.
right,
They split from the Workers' Party in 1998 because the Workers' Party, being the good little bootleggers,
right,
supported the Good Friday Agreement and acquiesced to it. And
right,
for the Provisionals, their emphasis was on nationalism and the military struggle, but there there were a lot of socialists and Marxists in the Provisionals as well, and there were people who had at different times memberships in the Provisionals, the officials, and the ERPs, which split from the officials in '74.
okay,
But yeah, it's complicated, but
right. I'm
as
following you.
far as as far as I'm concerned, the officials made a mistake when they took the Free State decision in 1969, and Provisional Sinn Féin, they were wrong and they made a huge mistake recognising the Free State in 1986. It's a betrayal of what previous um, Republicans
Yeah,
fought and died.
fought and died for.
Like my my granda fought against the Free State and was put in Newbridge for his troubles. So to go and recognise that blue shirt regime, that illegitimate blue shirt regime created by an act of legislation in Westminster, when Westminster has no right to legislate and make statutes for Ireland. And this is something I don't get. Recognising the Free State didn't work for Fine Gael, it didn't work for Fianna Fáil, it didn't work for or official Sinn Féin, the Workers' Party, whatever they're calling themselves now, and Provisional Sinn Féin. So why would it ever work? Basically,
Right.
what it is another set of blue shirts like the original Fine Gael. They were called Commonweal back then, but still the same blue shirt party. It's just another set of blue shirts going goose stepping in the Leinster House and hailing their leader. And they were fawning over Charles recently as well, which was disgusting.
Hmm. Very interesting. Yeah, well, like we had that same problem with like the squad was supposed to care about workers, right? So a lot of
The fraud
deceit
squad.
and yeah, the fraud squad. So Quislings, I think you used to call them, right?
They are.
Right. Um, sometime we should have a more detailed talk about Irish politics, but I'll actually write up some questions over time because there's a lot I want to know. And anytime you enter into modern politics, it tends to get complicated.
But um, are you aware of what the Good Friday Agreement does?
That's the one in 1998 that made the truce between the provisional IRA and the official IRA, right?
No, no. It was between the Provisionals, the Brits, the Free Staters, and the
Okay.
Unionists, and
Okay.
it
Okay.
was basically a horrible deal to resurrect the worst elements of Sunningdale. Sunningdale was basically a coalition between Unionists and Nationalists to
Okay.
carve up the ministries and departments between them, to govern Stormont, and basically implement British rule in the six counties. And
Right.
Provisional Sinn Féin, after a good quarter of a century, correctly rejecting Sunningdale, signed off the Good Friday Agreement, and they give away um, the special category status that 10 Republican hunger strikers had died for,
Mm.
and basically allowed for the Brits to restart their old policy of criminalisation of Republicans, and it was stupid, and there has been no noteworthy gain. In fact, I'd say things have got worse, not better.
Right.
So the
Right.
absence of balance, or it's not even an absence of balance. What was the term used at the time? An acceptable level of balance. That's not
Okay.
peace and tranquility.
Right.
That's basically means the Brits and the Free Staters can keep a lid all on it, so it's cool. No,
Right.
it's not cool. It's it's the nightmare continues basically, and
Right.
that's what they call the old Stormont, the nationalist nightmare. Well,
Nationalist nightmare.
it it's not just a nationalist nightmare these days. It's a working people of Ireland nightmare these
Right.
days, not just the nationalists. Like if you go into, see if you go into Tuckmona or Shankill or even Sandy Road or Donegal Road, the villager, like these are not healthy living conditions. There should have been, not only should there have been progress, it shouldn't have regressed over the last quarter of a century. It's
Right.
not working, and that's like half a century of the Brits trying to impose Sunningdale on us.
Right.
It's not working, and the fact is, Stormont has collapsed so many times, and it's not getting backed up anytime soon because the Brits sold out to the EU on the protocol. Like, this is the thing: the Brits Brits left the EU. They're not going to bust your market because Britain is the EU's biggest external market, bigger than US or China. So
Right.
it's not in the Brits' interest to undercut the EU market. So they're not going to ship in
Right.
a load of produce below EU regulations. So,
Right.
but basically, there's a trade border in the Irish Sea which stops east-west trade. But this is another thing. East East improving East-West relations was a part of the Good Friday Agreement. So they love Sunningdale, and Sunningdale must be imposed um, all the time, according to them, until it comes to Brexit and the EU. Oh, forget Sunningdale.
Hmm.
Trade barrier down the Irish Sea, east-west trade. Who cares about that? But the Irish Free State is one of the few net contributors left in the EU. Do they want Ireland to leave as well? Like,
Right.
you can't give Ireland the screw job, and Britain's quite a big external market for Ireland, strangely enough, being right
Oh
there.
yeah. Oh sure.
They don't care about supply lines, they don't care about small, medium enterprises,
Right.
yet they want to extract from the economy. Have they thought this through mathematically?
Right. Yeah.
Like, you can't just take all our taxes and say, yeah, we're just going to give you the screw job now, even though you paid for everything.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
The British, they're absentee landlords half the time, and half the time they're even worse. Sucks.
um, you know where the word boycott came from?
Where's that?
Charles Boycott. He was a British landlord agent uh, in Ireland during the Land War,
Hmm.
and basically he was such an obnoxious landlord agent, and he was so cruel that he was made into a social pariah. And
Boycott. I see. Right.
yeah, long story short, the boycott was successful.
Well, what's the long story?
Oh, I said long story short.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, the Land League won and Charles
Right.
Boycott lost. So yeah, the first successful boycott, and couldn't have happened to a more deserving man. You,
Yeah.
you should you should read about the Land League, the Land War, and Charles Boycott.
Okay. Oh yeah. I'll look that up.
An abs an absolute menace. I'll leave it at that because I'm gonna start swearing.
Right. I will look into that. That's interesting. Okay.
But is there anything else you want to bring up?
Um. Oh yeah. I was just kind of wondering in general, on a personal level, do you have family that lives in the Free State as well?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Right. Are you able to travel back and forth and see them fairly
Yeah.
easily, or can that be a hassle?
No, it's basically get on the bus or the train.
Right.
But apart from that, it's well, it's not too bad unless you come across the guards. But then again, that could be said the other way around. It's not
Right.
too bad traveling to the six counties until you run into the RUC,
Right. What does
the
that stand for?
Royal Ulster Constabulary.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
People will say, it's the police service of Northern Ireland. Actually, no. If you're going to shove British law down my throat, I'll quote it to you. The full title is the Police Service of Northern Ireland incorporating the Royal Ulster Constabulary. It's still the RUC. So if they want to get pedantic on that, I don't care. But
Hmm.
yeah, the RUC and the guards are armed thugs, which
Right.
enforce the diktats of the six counties and 26 counties,
Right.
respectively. But yeah, uh,
Oh,
they are authoritarian regimes.
right.
But
Wow.
this is something I I I couldn't get my head around. It still angers and annoys me. I couldn't walk across the street in Kilwilkie to commemorate Republican Day, but during 2020, during the whole George Floyd
Yeah.
time, the RUC facilitated a BLM protest which disrupted traffic in Belfast city centre. And
Whoa.
worse still, they all got their fines rescinded.
Huh.
Like,
Huh.
and that's a term in the Good Friday Agreement, parity of esteem. Where was the party of esteem there? Oh,
Right.
basically the Republicans get lifted for commemorating their dead, but BLM do a disruptive protest. Don't
Right.
um
Wow.
don't even find them. Yeah, party of esteem, my
It's
backside.
it's telling that came from the top down. You know what I mean?
Oh, and that's another thing. When abortion was illegal before Westminster imposed that on the 6 counties, and
Right.
that's the only thing. The only other outside Republican groups, the only other political movement to call the 6 counties a colony was the pro-life movement because Westminster imposed it. Stormont didn't get a say. The people didn't get a say. It was imposed. But
Mm.
prior to that, there was a pro-abortion protest downtown in Belfast, and a girl took an abortifacient. Now, by rights, the RUC should have lifted her. They didn't do a thing.
Mm.
But how dare we Republicans complain of political policing?
Right. Right.
It's an and Tucker's right when he said the Democrats want political policing in America, and that it's
Mm.
in the norm in some other countries. It is the norm here, and I can't see it not being the norm anytime soon.
Yeah. That's
So,
definitely something I'm worried about.
is there anything else you'd like to say before we finish here?
No, no, that's. I really enjoyed the discussion. Thank you for having me.
Good. Hopefully, I'll have you again on sometime. And for those watching, like, subscribe, and share.
Thank you.